On Thai PBS World Tonight, after Paetongtarn announced achievements and plans for 2025, polls have shown that the majority still doubt the government's economic policies. An economist from Thailand's leading think tank urges the government to tackle other economic issues rather than increase value-added tax. And the latest updates on the flooding situation in the south. Swadika and good evening and welcome to Thai PBS World Tonight. I'm Nad Bunnang and we'll begin the program with the latest in Thai politics. Last week, Prime Minister Paetongtarn made a televised announcement on the government's achievements during the past 3 months as well as their vision for 2025. And during the announcement, Paetongtarn stated that next year will be a year of tangible, practicable possibilities and hope. And meanwhile, opinion polls have shown that people have no confidence in the Paetongtarn government, especially with the economic policies. So more than half of the respondents to a recent opinion poll say that they have little to no confidence in the government's ability to tackle pressing economic problems. According to a Surat poll, about 55% of the respondents do not believe that the government will be able to solve the country's economic problems compared to 45% of the respondents who have confidence in the government. In terms of the most urgent issues, when asked about this issue in the same survey, 70% of the respondents said that the most urgent issues for the government are the cost of living, job creation, and increasing personal incomes. 61% said illegal narcotics should be addressed as a priority, while 59% want the government to address the whole economic system. And regarding the performance, whether they did well or not during the past 3 months, about 40% said that it is way too early to judge, while some said that the government had underperformed. As for the most outstanding policy of the Paetongtarn administration, about 70% praised the digital wallet scheme, and some of them also said that the government has performed well in boosting local tourism, while others praised the government's welfare card program for the poor. And regarding what the people expect from the Prime Minister, most people want the government to improve the economy, reduce the cost of living, and increase incomes, while some want the Prime Minister to improve her communication with the people and to be more receptive to their needs, and others want her to crack down hard on cybercrime and illegal drugs. Previously, Prime Minister Paetongtarn detailed the government's performance over the past 3 months and laid out the projects it intends to implement going forward. One of those issues include tackling floods and drought, which she said that her government has adopted a new approach by enabling public participation in problem solving and approaching neighboring countries such as Myanmar. Other issues include tackling PM 2.5 dust pollution, amending regulations to make it more possible for smaller businesses to export rice, legalizing underground business so that they can be taxed, and on promoting the community-based liquor industry. The Prime Minister also said that the government plans to invest in future industries and to train Thai students in the skills needed to transform the country into an AI hub in the region. Apart from these, there are also measures as well related to education. Paetongtarn said that the government will revive the One District, One Scholarship program by granting scholarships to talented students so they may study at top universities abroad, while also promoting bilingual courses in district-level schools with funding from the government lottery office. Her administration will also press ahead with cutting suburban train fares on all routes to 20 baht and developing housing projects for all Thais so that they can own their own home at an affordable price. And regarding the digital wallet scheme, which is something that many people have been waiting for, the Prime Minister offered her assurance that the Thai people over 60 years old will receive the 10,000 baht cash welfare benefit before Chinese New Year, while other recipients will receive it as digital money. So the Prime Minister has vowed to solve several issues altogether, but politicians, especially from the opposition camp, mainly the People's Party, had commented that what Paetongtarn Paetongtarn delivered during the televised address last week was actually a repeat of what she said in her policy statement delivered to Parliament a few months ago. Not only that, they also felt that most of the policies that were delivered last week were not as detailed as they should be. And those, according to the People's Party, they said that there were not actually achievements, but rather assignments to other ministers. What they pointed out, though, was that at the end of each explanation to her policies, Paetongtarn would say that, oh, I will have to ask the deputy ministers to follow up on these issues. So whether it's the floods, they would assign this minister, or the PM 2.5 pollution or anything about education, they would assign each of their deputy ministers during her televised address. But regardless of all these, the poll has reflected how some people feel about Paetongtarn's performance during the past 3 months as the country's leader. Some people may say that 3 months might be too short to determine whether she actually performed well as the country's leader, but we will see how the opinion polls will change once she completes at least 1 year in office. And still on Paetongtarn, now let's talk about something that is more delightful, because the Prime Minister has been listed on Forbes magazine's 100 most powerful women in the world. And Paetongtarn is ranked 29th place on the world list and ranked 3rd in Asia for this year's 100 most powerful women in the world. And according to Forbes magazine, the list was determined by 4 main factors, namely money, media, impact, and spheres of influence. For political leaders in particular, the magazine weighed gross domestic products and populations, unlike corporate chiefs, would be analyzed by their revenues, valuations, and employee counts, while mentions in the media and social reach were analyzed for all of the candidates. The list showed the 100 women who command a collective $33 trillion in economic power and influence, either by policy or by example, more than 1 billion people. Their leadership across finance, technology, media, and beyond stands as a potent retort to those who question a woman's ability to wield power. And previously, Paetongtarn has already been named on this year's Time 100 Next list by Time magazine. Meanwhile, the Minister of the Prime Minister's Office, Jiraport Sinthuphrai, praised Paetongtarn's mention on the Forbes list this year. She actually said that since taking office, Paetongtarn has demonstrated leadership in dealing with several domestic crises, especially with the management of flooding in several provinces and the school bus fire incident, in which she ordered agencies to act quickly and in timely fashion, as well as pushing forward various policies from the government of former Prime Minister Sethar. And those policies include a 3-year farmer debt suspension, tourism stimulation with a free visa, and of course the 10,000 baht cash handout scheme, the marriage equality law, and also the 30 baht universal healthcare project. But putting politics aside, when people might have been questioning her ability to lead as the country's prime minister, these listings, such as the Forbes 100 most powerful women, are actually made every year to acknowledge the achievements made by women in various areas. And for Forbes magazine, most of the time they would focus mostly on business leaders and sometimes political leaders as well. But there are also other listings that have been recognized internationally, one of them being BBC 100 Women, where they focus also on activists as well. But despite the fact that more and more women are becoming leaders, whether it's in politics, business, climate change, the media, and even activism, women are still being underrepresented, especially in male-dominated careers. In politics, for example, women still remain underrepresented in parliament and also at the Senate level as well. Now the mission for several countries and in some governments and also the private sector, they are trying to break the glass ceiling so that there are more female representation in their careers and in their industries as well. And a lot of these listings are being published every year to celebrate women's achievements and successes in their respective areas. So congratulations to Prime Minister Paetongtarn on this honorable mention for this year as well. While Prime Minister Paetongtarn has confirmed that there's no current plan to raise value-added tax to 15%, it it has raised concerns over raising prices of goods and the potential impact to low-income groups. And economists at TDRI actually said that the government should focus on tackling high household debt and supporting manufacturing instead. Let's find out more with Frank Han-Shi.
The recent fears over an increase in value-added tax of VAT stems from Finance Minister Paetongtarn's remarks about the low VAT rate in Thailand. In comparison to the global standard, typically ranging from 15 to 25%, the minister said that Thailand's VAT rate has set a low level for over 2 decades, which is only 7%. For example, VAT in China is set between 6 and 13% depending on the type of goods, while Japan and South Korea have 10% VAT according to a global accounting firm. Pichai claimed that it is time to increase the rate to 15% in Thailand, aimed at bolstering state revenue and funding national development. The proposal has, however, sparked a public outcry. Economists warn that such a change will raise the cost of goods and impact those on low incomes. While Prime Minister Paetongtarn has announced that the plan to increase VAT has been put on hold, economists emphasize that tax restructuring is necessary, but the government should increase VAT by only 1% per year.
Well, I think we will probably need to eventually raise the VAT rate because according to the Thai law, actually the VAT rate is 10%. But every single year since the Tom Yam Goong crisis was 20-some years ago, we have an annual waiver of that law, reducing the VAT rate from 10% to 7%. So I think it is, reasonable to increase the VAT back to where the law has stipulated, but probably not in one big jump. Probably maybe 1 percentage point each year for the next 3 years, for example, so that individuals and and consumers can also adjust. Right, and also producers can also adjust to the increase in the VAT rate. So I'm not saying that we should keep it at 7%, but I think the increase should be gradual.
In addition to tax reform, Dr. Girida said that Paetongtarn's demonstration should focus on how to address challenges from abroad. According to a U.S. foundation, Thailand is ranked the second most risky country vis-a-vis the potential impacts of Trump's planned tariff policy. The Economist added that the government should also prepare for unexpected crises in 2025.
What should the government do, right, to mitigate all these impacts? Of course, one way, as I mentioned, is to have cushion in case there's a crisis or there's oil price spike, or even if there's climate change disasters or even another pandemic, for example. So that's one way. But I think other what we call quick wins that the government can make for next year is I think what has been done now is to sort of help alleviate the household debt burden by the measures that were announced yesterday by the Bank of Thailand and the Ministry of Finance. I think that's a good way to at least help people throughout the next 3 years, right, to get through financing their debt. So that's one way. But of course, the fundamental issue here in Thailand is how to raise their incomes, right? Just helping them alleviate debt is a short-term issue.
Dr. Girida pointed out that next year will be a very uncertain and turbulent for Thailand's economy, adding that the government should expedite the reduction of cumbersome regulations and the implementation of upskilling and reskilling programs to boost the economy. Frank Han-Shi reporting for Thai PBS World.
And like what Dr. Girida said, the value-added tax will eventually have to be increased anyway, but what she actually explained was that it will be a gradual increase, in which she actually suggested that the government should increase it by 1% each year instead of from 7% to 15% straight away. She also predicts that next year will be another turbulent year for the Thai economy as well. So we'll have to wait and see how Paetongtarn government will actually deal with the situation. And turning to the flooding situation in the south, 5 provinces, especially in Nakhon Ratchasima and Surat, Thani provinces, still experience massive flooding, leaving several communities inundated. Following continuous heavy rain, water runoffs have been cascading down from the Khao Luang mountain range into 2 districts, namely Kiriwong and Mueang districts of Nakhon Ratchasima since last night. In Mueang district, municipal officials raised red flags at all bridges to warn motorists and pedestrians of the presence of canals beneath the floodwater. Images of raging currents of muddy water from Khao Luang runoffs carrying fallen tree trunks were posted to the Facebook page of the Kiriwong community today. Rescuers in the 2 districts say that they have been closely monitoring the flood situation, noting that floodwaters are steadily rising. They say that residents in risky areas were advised in advance to move to safer places. There are also many waterfalls in the Khao Luang mountain range in Lansaka, Mueang, Promkiri, and Nopitam districts, and runoffs from these are contributing to the massive flooding. In nearby Surat, Thani province, 8 districts have been declared public disaster zones, and about 3,000 households in 145 villages have been affected by flooding. However, there are no reports of casualties so far. Meanwhile, looking at the overall situation in the south, the Public Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Department revealed that 5 provinces in the south remain flooded today, namely Chumphon, Ranong, Surat Thani, Nakhon Ratchasima, and Pathalung, affecting a total of 128,000 households in 47 districts. So based on what you're seeing right here, so you can see that many of the households have been heavily affected by the runoffs, and that has inundated several communities in Nakhon Ratchasima today. And that has put a huge burden on many of the communities who are left with no electricity and having to struggle to find food and clean water as well. From natural disaster, now let's move on to another unfortunate accident. A 12-year-old girl is seriously injured after she fell from an octopus ride at a winter fair in Thailand's Nakhon Ratchasima province. So the incident occurred in Pak Chong district on Saturday when a 12-year-old girl fell from an octopus ride at a winter fair which opened last Friday and is scheduled to continue until December 24th. Currently, the girl's condition is closely monitored and she is found to have a broken rib, spinal fracture, and air in her chest cavity, and the girl was conscious and able to communicate. The girl's older sister told reporters that they went on the octopus ride. However, the ride started before the safety bar was locked, and it threw them off the ride as it began spinning. She did tell the staff who were stationed at the ride, though, that the safety bar was not even locked yet, but the staff could not halt the ride immediately, so the ride would actually started spinning about 2 or 3 times already. And so far, the owner of the octopus ride and staff members have met with the local police to provide details of the unfortunate incident, and mechanics from the local government are scheduled to be sent today to the fairgrounds to inspect the ride in question to determine its safety before it is allowed to reopen. So we have to say that this is a very unfortunate incident, and normally when we go to amusement parks or fun parks like these, even though it's supposed to be an enjoyable moment where you spend your time with your family or with your friends, but incidents like these can turn a fun fair into a nightmare. And so whenever parents take these children to these amusement parks or these fun fairs, they should always accompany children at all times. And not only that, the amusement parks should always ensure the safety for their children. Whether it's the rides like these, they always have to check the maintenance more often so that it doesn't happen like this ever again. And I'm pretty sure that no one wants to experience a nightmare where they end up falling off a roller coaster or an octopus ride like this. But regardless, we wish the 12-year-old girl a speedy recovery. And that wraps up tonight's edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. Join us every Monday and Tuesday at 6 p.m. on Thai PBS World's Facebook and YouTube Live. And don't forget to follow us on social media and our website, thaipbsworld.com, for all the latest updates about Thailand as well as analyses. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. สวัสดีค่ะ